Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hudson Public Utilities Commission meeting for August 9th, 2022. I guess we'll begin with the roll call.
Hassan, Nolan,
Present.
Paul,
Here.
Coram,
Here.
Moose, Preisel, Reese.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we switched our agenda around a little bit to
You can
get to
do
this.
you can do approval of the meeting minutes. That's pretty quick.
Oh, the meeting minutes we still have to do first. Okay.
Yeah, please.
Approval of the meeting minutes for our last meeting that was on July the 12th. Anybody had a chance to look at that and looking for a motion for approval?
I move to approve.
Second.
In favor? Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Okay, so then we can jump to 5.1 for the presentation from SEH.
Okay, so
on
on,
monopole.
so on 5.1, we've been in discussion. Dale Ronsis is here from SEH, one of our engineers that specializes in telecommunications. So all the carriers and telecommunications that we have on our water towers, kind of Dale's realm of expertise there. So he is on here tonight, just to kind of give us an overview and answer any questions that we might have. It's just all we're looking for tonight is just kind of some discussion to get everything rolling on this. So what a monopole is, if you actually look at the issue sheet, it's just discussion on options, feasibility, and timeline for installing a monopole at 750 Summit Lane North for the cellular carriers to utilize instead of our Deer Path water tower. A water tower relocation, basically what it does is if you look at the top of the tower, you see all the antennas and all that kind of stuff that are up there. Those are all revenue generating, so those are all revenue generating. So we obviously want to keep them. The problem with 750 Summit Lane North is it's such a populated area, with homes right around it and things like that. So when we redo a water tower, for example, all the carriers have to come off of that water tower. So everything that's up there that they had put up has to come down in order for us to do our job and repaint that tower. When that happens, the carriers at that time, they can make upgrades and changes and things that they want. They have to stay within their space that they're renting on the water tower. And then we also, make the carriers paint all of their equipment that's up there the exact same color as our water tower, just for aesthetic reasons. Just so we don't have a ton of, multicolored, antennas and different stuff up there. So we make them do that. It's very expensive, and Dale can, maybe touch on, just kind of what it is for a ballpark figure for, AT&T or Verizon to remove all of their equipment, paint it, and then put it back up. So what we're looking to do is if you look in your packet, there's just a couple pictures of what a monopole actually looks like. You've seen them all over the place. What it does is if we actually put that on our land, right next to the tower, like these two pictures are depicting, the carriers would come off the tower and would actually go on that monopole. Now, rent, we would maintain the rent, for that. We would own the tower, so we would have control of that. Why the carriers are interested in this and why they like this is once they're on that monopole, chances of them ever having to come off that monopole for maintenance are very, very slim. Now they might have to change out their equipment and things like that, but that's up to them. It's not like they're forced to come off of that monopole. I'll also, have Dale kind of touch on what a total project cost for something like this is, but also keep in mind that we would be asking the carriers to help with that bill in terms of, if it's a $400,000 project, we're hoping that we can get the carriers to put a good chunk of that change in, because it over the long run, it does save them money, because we're requiring them at this point, every 15 to 20 years, they have to get off the tower. And Dale, do you just got a ballpark of what it costs a carrier to get off and back on a tower when a project is done?
So right now with today's technology, and technology, I'm going to just use 4G, 5G technology. You are looking for a carrier is going to spend in between $100,000 and $160,000 to set up a temporary pole for reconditioning purposes. So otherwise, they'll set up a temporary tower, put up not a full site, but enough to keep the coverage in the area to be satisfactory, to be able to come off a water tank, and then once the water tank is finished, to go back on with their array of antennas and turn the site back up to be 100%. So you're looking at $160,000 per carrier. And they sometimes, based on locations, they may share a common temporary pole, or they call it a cow or a colt, which is a tower on wheels. And that may reduce a little bit of the cost, but there's, it's roughly, it takes them a year and that much money to be prepared for reconditioning process.
And part of the problem with this 750 Summit Lane North, our Deer Path Tower, like I had said earlier, it's very congested up there. It's on a dead end street. It's a cul-de-sac. There really isn't a lot of room for all these carriers to put, what Dale is calling a cow or temporary, structures up there and things like that. Like he says in the issue sheet, a life cycle of a monopole is about 75 years. So these carriers, that's why they're loving these. We would have to, first of all, we'd have to do some prelim work and see if we can even get a monopole on our site. The other thing with the carriers that Dale had mentioned in our conversations was, and Dale can maybe describe this a little bit better or explain it a little bit better. A carrier, if they move certain amount of feet, so it's not like a carrier can just come off of our tower and go, well, we're going to buy the lot, three houses down, we're going to take the lot and we're just going to put up our own pole. It has to do with their location and frequencies. And maybe Dale, you can explain that better, why once they're on a tower, it's extremely difficult and expensive for them to even move, a half a block away.
Correct, Kip. There's two factors that come into play here. First, the carriers, through their FCC license, have a huge due diligence responsibility for regulatory due diligence, which is basically they're looking at a site that they're going to broadcast a federally controlled signal from. The feds say you are going to do your due diligence and look and see if this is a Superfund site, if it's in a federal migratory path, if the tribal Indians have any say within it, any problems that may be occurred with, in this FAA filings, flight paths, things of that nature. So they are responsible for doing this large plethora of due diligence to be able to broadcast a signal from that location. It doesn't move from that location very easily. It may move on the same parcel or close parcel, and that we're talking maybe a couple of the 300 feet, but not outside of that. So every time that they have to move or create a site, they're going to spend in between 6 and 9 months minimum, and a feasibility study, which is in there. It's kind of similar to what that is, that due diligence. They're going to spend $100,000 if there's large Indian presence in there and they claim to it. I've seen that go an extra $100,000 by itself. So each one of them that have a license to broadcast a signal from that tower now have a sole responsibility to do that on their own if they move. The second portion of it, technology-wise, is think of this as a spider web, and the site becomes a point where things are meeting. And the design of that spider web can't move that point. It can't move very far without creating shortages on one side and overages on the other. It's designed for the capacity and the coverage. So when you start moving that broadcast signal from that location, as Kip said, even 3 houses down, could be 1,000 feet, their whole entire system with all the sites around it will require reconfiguration. So and that in itself could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Could be as simple as $40,000 or $50,000. But every time we start talking something for the carriers, it's 6 to 9 months, and it's $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, $200,000. So that spot that has a Latin lounge on the top of your water tank is pretty important to them and holds some value to it just for the broadcasting signal.
So if you kind of scroll through the pages, Dale had just sent me, it's kind of the scope of work. We didn't get real specific in this, in terms of putting our name in all over the place and different things like that. I just kind of wanted to give everybody an overview of what it would look like. So to do the prelim on this stuff, we're looking at about, 76,000, 75,900 to do, the task descriptions that are kind of highlighted on page, 8 of 9. What does a total project cost, something like this, Dale?
So if
for the monopole, for installation,
yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
And I will, what I sent you, Kip, and what you're using is great, because this is actually a feasibility report that we did for the carrier or for the city that you see in the pictures before, where they had a water tower that they were taking down. They didn't want to lose control of the rent. They didn't want to lose control of where the carriers are going. The city had more control of making a city monopole fit within the CUP. So the task that you see here is that due diligence, regulatory due diligence that I was talking about, to be able to deliver back to the city saying you can have a tower here. Everything fits in within the bill, and these are your average construction costs. It's really going to determine how the soils are and what the carriers come in for and participation for the loading of the tower. So we would design it for them. But I'm guessing right now, I would say an estimate right now with the way steel is and concrete, you're going to probably be at a 4 to 5 carrier pole, which is what I would recommend. So it'll be roughly 50 feet taller than the water tower itself. And that's at 150, isn't it, Kip? So we're going to be right at about 199 feet, which I would suggest you don't want to go over, because then the probability of lighting it comes into play, and I'll say it this way, your constituents will not like having a lit tower in town. So we'll keep it at 199 feet, a 5 carrier pole. You're probably going to be roughly about $360,000 to $420,000. So you're all in. You're going to be right at about $500,000.
Okay, so
Now,
then go ahead, Dale. Sorry.
I was going to suggest that I'm one that would rather tell you a little bit more and it'd be cheaper. But that's roughly what it's going to be. As Kip said, this same scenario that we did in the city that you see in the picture, we did it proactively. And that's what I came to Kip and said, you're going to paint this thing in a couple of years. We should talk about this, because it may take a couple of years to put this into action. And if you have it before, and we've done 4 or 5 towers right now. If you have this in place before you do your water reconditioning, your water tank reconditioning, all of my clients have asked for a premium at their new lease for going on the monopole, and most of them have paid for half the monopole through that premium. So the city of Cedarburg, they had 5 carriers. They asked $50,000 per carrier. They all paid it politely and jumped on the monopole. Their $400,000 monopole was paid for in the third year after the rent was taken for 1, 2, and 3, and the premiums were paid.
Right. So that's kind of why, Dale hit on it. Why we're talking about this now is because that tower is due for maintenance. So that tower is due to be rehabbed. You can drive by and just look at it and tell. I mean, even the general public can see that it does need work. So that's kind of why we're looking at this now. So we just kind of wanted to get this in front of you guys, just to kind of get any thoughts that you might have on it, positive, negatives. The way we're seeing this is it is some money that we have to put out up front, but we are looking at, recouping that, within, we haven't done all the math yet, but, we would be recouping that, like Dale said, within a few years of putting this up. And a lot of it just depends on how willing the carriers are too. Before we get too far into this, we definitely have to have conversations with them. Like he said, they were willing to do $50,000 in that other community, with our proximity to the cities. We are probably one of the most used carrier facilities in the state of Wisconsin for sure. Just based off of our populations with the cities, with everything here, and with people traveling through. I mean, it's well known that there's more traffic between Eau Claire and the cities that come through Hudson than there is between Madison and Milwaukee. So, and the carriers know all this too. They do their work and their due diligence on this. So, even when Dale says, 50,000, okay, maybe that's, that might even be low. I'm hoping, it'd be nice to get these carriers to do 75, 80, maybe even 100,000. And we just pay for this thing right up front with their money. And then we just kind of sit back and we don't ever have to deal with the carriers on that water tower again. So that's kind of where this is all going. So I guess, does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, at this point, what we'll do, I didn't budget for this 80,000, 75, 76,000. We didn't budget for this. It just depends on when I want to redo that tower. In what year, we could budget for it next year, and we could easily get going right after the first of the year, with doing the prelim, all this kind of stuff that's listed in here, type thing. But I guess I'm looking for, is anybody just going, absolutely not, do we want this, type thing. So.
No, I've got quite a few questions though.
Sure.
So, all right. So how many carriers does the utility work with right now?
On that site,
Well, and between all of the sites.
every carrier you can imagine.
So then does each carrier have something on each site, or is it like every couple of sites or?
They're pretty close to being on, we've got, North Hudson, there's obviously the Summit Tower. The one right behind me here over on Hanley is another one. I believe there's some up on,
Carmichael Tower.
Carmichael has some. So, a lot of our towers have these carriers, and they're all individual leases. So it's not like a package lease. It just depends on the tower that they're on is so if it's AT&T, for example, we have multiple leases with AT&T on every site that they're on. So
then, so what does each carrier pay yearly for one site?
it all varies. That's always up for discussion in terms of, I believe they do, Jay said, 5-year lease, 7 years.
They're typically 6.
Okay.
Well,
So,
how about instead, what are we bringing in each year from all of them?
yeah, that's easier.
Okay.
We average right around $300,000 a year from all of our sites is what we bring in. We are, according to the carriers, we are one of the most expensive sites around, but they compare us to, every time they call me and want to renegotiate their lease, they're comparing us to, some community in northern Wisconsin that they're getting it for, $20 in a case of beer. They get on their site and, it doesn't make any sense. So we really don't, very seldom do we drop in terms of what we get. And then there is annual increases every year, and those range anywhere is usually from 3 to 5% is what they go up every year type thing. So, but it's right around 300,000, give or take.
Could you send out a contract, a sample contract with one of the carriers, just so that we can see what that looks like?
You can look at, you won't understand it, but
Oh, okay.
that stuff and I mean, I can do it if you really want to look at it, we can do that. That's not a problem. But it's more legal, that's why when we redo a contract, it always goes through legal first. Just because it's the as is, whereofs, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I can easily send one out if you really are interested in seeing one. We can do that.
Yeah, it would be helpful to just
Kip,
take a look at it.
It is close to $300,000 annually for all the carriers on the towers where they have equipment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like Kip said, the amount that we collect from each site varies from the initial date of the land lease agreement with them, but anywhere from about $2,500 to about $3,000 a month per carrier per site. So it is a substantial amount of monies.
Are these at every one of the sites?
Well,
Like Kip said, different carriers
it depends
have.
on the tower, or it depends on the tower. Like the tower up on Lemon Street in North Hudson, there's nothing on that one. It's not tall enough. So they have to have the certain requirements that the carriers are requiring. It has to have height. They don't want a lot of trees that are taller than the tower, things of that nature. So no, not everyone has them.
One of the questions that came to mind for me, I'm sorry if I'm jumping in on your time here. I was thinking just what you were talking about is that height. And I think you said 50 feet taller than the water tower, is that right?
Yeah.
But keeping it under, what was that, 200?
199 feet, correct.
Yeah. So as far as the city goes, are there any issues that we'd be looking at with them, and or are we exempt from most of that?
Not that I'm aware of. That's obviously, that would all have to be looked at as we're going through this. There might be an exemption that we might have to get from the village, because this would be up in the village. But that's all stuff, we definitely have to look at and see, I mean, there really isn't a height restriction on a water tower, but I'm not sure on anything like this.
Are you planning that at each time you redo a water tower that you put up a monopole?
No, this one is special because of the location and the inability to get them cows in. Like when they redid Hamley over here, we've got a nice big yard. There's no trees. They can bring, basically a cow it's a big antenna on wheels. So they pull it in, it's like a big trailer. They pull it in, they park it, they anchor it. And then they hit the button and the tower just extends. That's the way it goes. But, at the location that we're talking about, if you get a chance, run up there on Summit Street, if you're ever up in North Hudson, and just take a look. It's the furthest tower to the north in North Hudson is the one we're discussing. So it's pretty easy to find, but there just isn't room up there to get all these carriers off of the tower and have them maintain coverage, which they have to do. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Part of the reason why we're looking at this is if we make these carriers get off, there is that chance that they could just be like, well, we're going to go through and we are going to do everything Dale was talking about. And we're going to put our own tower up, our own monopole somewhere. And then at that point, you're going to see every other carrier jump to that, just for this simple fact that they don't have to come on and off, every 15 years or so. So that is our fear. And once they're off, then we lose the lease. We lose all that. We lose that funding. So.
So
May I jump in here for a second? And that was, if you don't mind, that was one of the things that I was cautious with my first conversation with Kip is there's not enough room to put a temporary service up there. And what the carriers are going to be going back to with the technology they have, the amount of equipment they have, they're going to need some type of a temporary source just at that site, which I don't think we can supply. I don't think we could supply it maybe but for one, and there's 3 full carriers up there, and all 3 carriers have a legal obligation to provide 911 service through their phone. That's the one thing that we are allowing the private sector cell phone providers to provide a government emergency response service. So they have a lot of clout at the point where if we can't help them in a temporary solution, they get to leave, and then the state statute 660404 says they can come back in and say, if you did not give us the space, we're going to apply for something that's out of scope per se, and would be maybe something that wouldn't conditionally be used in a conditional use permit or permitted. But they would say, well, the city gave us no other options, so we have to go here. And it may be a residential area, or it may be a light commercial. It may be something that's out of your control, that if they prove that they have that service is being lost by losing this tower, they pretty much can go wherever they want. And the state, you have to tell them, prove wrong. And in this scenario, they're obviously going to go running someplace. And most likely the carriers don't play nice with one another. So it's not going to be 1 5-carrier pole. It's going to be 5 or 6 small poles strewn throughout North Hudson. And they're going to find people that were willing to sell the back lot and get a conditional use permit that is forced through to put up their own separate pole. So that's kind of the part of this that really is a catch-22 is if you don't, you have to be proactive in how you're going to plan to take care of the carriers during the reconditioning process.
is there any maintenance on the pole?
No. The amount of pole is a 16-sided faceted steel galvanized pole. It has no tension wires. It has no obstructions other than a cylindrical pole. It is designed for a drilled caisson, which is basically a straight tube type of a foundation, or a small mat in pure foundation, which is a square mat buried 10, 12 feet in the ground, extremely thick, that has a pier that the monopole bolts onto in the top of that. So they're designed to be very low space use.
Mm-hmm.
So I told Kip at the beginning of this, we could probably put a full 195-foot monopole in the same location that one of the carriers would try to put a temporary pole for temporary solutions.
I have just a question. I think you've done a really good job explaining the benefits of why taking the antennas off of the water towers makes sense for utility delivery and all the constituents. My only question is there a community where we could go and observe one of these? You mentioned Cedarburg, but River Falls, Ellsworth, New Richmond, anywhere nearby where we could see this adoption?
So the city of Wayzata did it. The city of Egan, I don't know if you ever saw or seen the Egan Sperry Tower, communication tower. That was done in the same fashion, where they took a water tower down. They used it as a city, viewpoint. So that was one of those that were used as a replacement for a water tower. The monopole next to a water tower, there's not that many local, but I have a lot of interest from people that are looking at this. This is there's a big life cycle of tanks that are going to get painted in the next 5 to 7 years, and it just, the temporary solutions for it become very, very expensive. They perform very poorly for the 6 months that the tank is reconditioned. The carriers don't like it, so it's almost a viable solution to say, let's spend that money wisely, invest in a commitment to the carriers. The carriers, we ask for them to commit to doing it by whether it be a lease and a premium install package, and it's a win-win situation.
Kip, my only follow-up is, you've done a good job of laying this out and giving us a heads up. The specific example here involves North Hudson, and I don't believe we have any North Hudson reps on the call today. It seems as though there could be some complexity in how we handle this utility revenue and cost. So maybe that's something to work out with the city of Hudson, the village of North Hudson.
Yeah, the only thing really that obviously, if we're going to be doing a project of this, this size in the village, they would definitely be aware of it. We would keep them or their village president, and they're not called aldermen, so I'm not sure what they are, but we would obviously keep them in the loop on anything like that. If there would be any approvals, that they would have to do for for heights, things like that, we would work through all of that. But we own that tower. The village we own that property, and we own that tower in the village. So, in terms of financial anything, they wouldn't be involved. The village wouldn't be involved. They're on the hook for anything. This would be the utility, funding this, with hopefully the help of the carriers. And let's be honest, if we approach the carriers and the carriers are like, absolutely not, or we're not going to give you any money for this. We would just rather put up temporary and then take the temporary down 6 months later and put it back on your water tower. Okay, well then, then maybe that's just the route we go, and we don't pursue this anymore. But I know we did have a face-to-face meeting with one of the carriers that is on that tower, and they were giddy about this. They were extremely happy about this. For all the reasons that we listed, once they're up there, they don't have to move. The only thing that they're going to have to do is when they upgrade, like Dale said, from 4G to 5G or 5G to 6G or whatever is coming next, that's all they have to do. We control the tower. At this point, when a carrier does need to do maintenance on our tower, there's also staff time involved from my staff. We have to let them in. We have to make sure that they're doing what they said they're going to do. We have to go through SEH to have everything looked at. So when they're up there and, that they're not chipping paint, that they're not going outside of their lease space, that the cables that they're running are properly fastened, that they're not in the way of any safety features that are on there. There's just a lot of stuff that actually has to happen. Anytime a carrier goes to, if they're even just going to change one simple antenna, for example, if they're going to, it's just, let's say it's not working, and they're going to take off antenna A and put antenna B, but it's the exact same antenna. We at this point we get a $10,000 escrow from the carrier to cover our costs, because we incur costs with SEH but for us, it's a pass through. The carriers have to pay that, or we won't even let them up there. So would there still be all that? No, it would reduce a lot of that, staff time, escrows. We're still going to have some escrows. We have to, because we own that monopole, but it's just going to make everybody's life a lot easier. You're also dealing, they do welding up there, different things like that, the main point of a water tower is to serve the public water and have fire protection. Now, if you ask a carrier, the main point of a water tower is to put their antennas on it any way they feel, and the cheapest possible way to do it so they can get their signal out and they can start collecting all of your monthly bills every month. So there's the difference. And that's why, when it comes to these carriers, we are very, very, very strict with what they can do, how they do it, when they do it, and who does it. So, there's a lot that goes into this, not just, there's just a few antennas up there. We make our phone calls. It's kind of like everything. People don't really think of what goes into making a phone call, when that thing's bouncing all over the place and stuff like that. But, it's when they're using our water towers, that's an investment the city has made, over time in that water tower. So we want to protect that water tower at all costs. So, and if we can get the carriers off of that water tower and still maintain our revenues, through lease space on a monopole, it's a win-win for us, is how I see it. Any other questions or? So I'm not hearing any real negatives. So, I think what we'll do at this point, I'll just kind of start working with Dale a little bit, more details, more in depth. We'll keep you guys in the loop as things, progress. And, once we get a little further down the road, like I said, we're already in August. I'm working on budget right now. So this easily can be, I'll just probably budget, I'll throw $100,000 in there just to get us rolling, type thing. So at least we can kind of get all the due diligence work done. At some point we will set up, some meetings with the carriers just to kind of get their interest in this. Hopefully we can lock them into some sort of, commitment to, cost wise on what they're going to contribute or what we'd like them to contribute, and just kind of work through all that kind of stuff. Like Dale said, this isn't going to happen overnight. This will definitely be, a year for sure before we're probably even ready to punch a hole in the ground, or anything along that line. But we wanted to start it now because that tower up there does need work. And we want to have this either yes or no. This is the route, this is the direction we're going to go, or we're not going to go this direction before we do any, start working on any tower projects up there in North Hudson. So, okay. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you, Dale, for joining us, and you and I will be in touch and we'll, get rolling on this. So
Certainly.
right.
Enjoyed talking with all. If you have any questions or concerns, please send them through Kip. I'll be more than happy to answer. I'll see if I can get some more examples of what's out there, what we're working on, what we have done, so that can help you understand the concept of where we're going and what it looks like. So I appreciate your time.
Great. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you.
So we'll resume the agenda here. Number 3.1, the new business, discussion possible action on the engineering services for the Lake Malibu water main crossing.
Okay, so the issue sheet in your packet, on March 12, 2019, the PUC meeting, engineer cost estimates were presented for the engineering services for the water main project under Lake Malibu. So for those, and I guess I'll just step back before I read, between the village of North Hudson and the city of Hudson, we have a water main that runs under Lake Malibu. Kind of, it would be to the east of the bridge that's there. It's a 4-inch water main, which is way undersized. We don't even know the quality of what it even looks like. It's underwater. How do we know? It's underwater and it's under dirt. So, there's really no way for us to tell. So if you remember back, when we redid Vine Street, a couple years ago, we actually did a lot of water main on there. So up on 7th Street, we have a 1 million gallon reservoir that sits there. So when we redid Vine Street, we actually brought 12-inch water main all the way down Vine to 2nd Street. when Second Street was redone last year, we actually brought that 12-inch all the way down Second Street to Lake Malibu. Okay. With the anticipation, or with the thought that we are going to replace that water main under Lake Malibu. On the village's side, they have 12-inch right up to Lake Malibu. So all we're missing is that piece that runs under Lake Malibu. So we've had the discussion, previous in the past of why we need that. It's fire protection. It is, if we have wells that we need to work on in the village, we have 2 wells over there. If we have well work that we need to do and we have to shut a well down, we do need some way to get water from the city of Hudson over to the village so we can maintain services. So back then we had went out to SEH and Cedar Corp. SEH was our engineer at the time. Cedar Corp is the village's engineer. Since it was a joint owned pipe, the village owned the north halfway through Lake Malibu. The city owned the south halfway through Lake Malibu. We met in the middle. So it was a joint owned pipe. Through the new water service agreement, the city now owns that entire section of pipe under Lake Malibu. So we are in need to get that up to a 12-inch so we can connect them to them two points on the village's side and on our side. So we have that opportunity to move water if needed between the two communities. So back in we did go up for engineering services. SEH, Cedar Corp both prepared estimates, and it was the consensus of the PUC to award the engineering services to Cedar Corp. And then I did attach the minutes from them. The project, it was scheduled to be done in 2021, but with the Second Street Highway 35 project and all that kind of stuff that went through, we eliminated it out of there and we pushed it back to 2023. So I am hoping to do it now in 2023. So I did go back to Cedar Corp and ask for an updated engineering cost. They went from a 2019 cost of $24,900 to a 2002 cost of $25,900. So in 2 years or 3 years, actually, they went up $1,000. So I thought that was fantastic, actually, in today's world. So what I'd like to do is start designing the phase of that 2023 construction. It'll allow for time. If we start it now this fall, we can get that designed. We can hopefully get out, either late December, early January, and get it out for bid. So we can hopefully get decent pricing on it. We can get on contractor schedules. That's always an issue on when we can get a project like this completed. Total project cost is estimated about $310,700. We'll be budgeting for that in my 2023 budget. So tonight I'm looking for an approval to start moving forward with Cedar Corp for the design and construction phase, the amount not to exceed $25,900. Chances of us getting bills this year, there might be a few that roll in, minor, but the majority of it would be covered in the budget in 2023. And we have money to.
I move to approve the recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
I'm sorry, did you say that again, Carrie? I missed that.
I said I move to approve the recommendation.
Okay.
And I seconded it.
I thought you said I moved to approve with one condition.
Oh, no, sorry.
That's what it sounded. That's why I asked for clarification. So.
No, the only difference is we're paying 100% now, not 50-50.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's a big difference.
Yep. If you look in the meeting minutes from the 2019, it was a 50-50 cost split. But like I said, since the water service agreement was rewritten, we actually now own that chunk of pipe in there. So that means 100% would be covered by the utility at that point. Correct.
But we're going to own all the pipe.
We will own the new pipe. Yes. Yes. So you had a motion, you had a second. So we would need a
All in favor?
two, please.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I guess a pass.
Thank you.
So then 3.2, we're talking about the installation of the air conditioning unit in the server room at the utility center.
Yep, and I will be 100% upfront about this. It's already done. So,
I move to approve.
I had it.
Second.
You know, basically, it's just making it a formality. The air
Yeah.
conditioning unit was leaking water. It was leaking R22. It was original to the building. I mean, the thing was the size of a Volkswagen. It was huge. This unit. It just wasn't working. The IT room, if you know what that is, that's where all of our servers are. That's where everything is backed up. I mean, there's tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment in just that one room that has to be kept at, I believe it's like 70 degrees. And then there's humidity that has to come out and all this kind of stuff. So I couldn't wait for this meeting to have it approved, and then we'd have to have it ordered. And so I just approved it. So basically, hope everybody's okay. You're just making it official. That's all it is. But it's already done. It's already installed. It's working great. The new unit is, it's tiny. It's small. It's quiet. So there.
And it came to 12,500.
Yeah. Yep. That was their proposal on that. So
I
yes.
move to approve the purchase of the air conditioning unit.
I'll second it.
Okay, there we go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. Motion passes. So then we have the Magni construction pay application number 26 for the wastewater treatment plant project.
Okay, so payment number 26 is in the amount of $87,598.85. SEH has gone through and looked at what they're submitting, and they have approved that what they are submitting has been completed. So we would need a motion and a vote on the pay app number 26 for wastewater treatment plant project.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Then number 4, project updates and project status report, Kip.
So the project status report, it hasn't changed. So there's really not a whole lot to talk about on that. If we go down to 4.2, the construction summary, you can kind of see what's kind of been going on down there. There isn't a whole lot going on down there right now. They got the monorail hoist was installed, the driveway asphalt. You can see the nice picture of the new asphalt down there. It looks all nice and pretty things. So, there really isn't a whole lot going on down there. And the reason for that is we're for the next 2 weeks or so, we're kind of in a holding pattern. The main pumps, there's 3 main pumps that take all the sewage from that comes into the plant, and it lifts it up and sends it through the plant. So those 3 pumps were scheduled to be replaced. We replaced 1 pump, and we started having clogging issues with it. Again, this is a great opportunity to tell everybody. I mean, the 3 or 4 people that actually watch this meeting, once it's posted and published, to stop using. I'm begging you, please stop using those flushable wipes. They're not flushable. They are terrible. They destroy pumps. They clog up. They're just the worst things in the world. Please do not flush them down the toilets. Because what's happening is we're getting all of these rags coming in. The new pumps, it's the design of the pump that they're actually picking these rags up, and once they get in that pump, they're clogging it. So what we're doing now is we're actually part of our control system. They're writing some programs to put in that will actually once the pump, if the pump clogs, it'll actually stop, it'll reverse itself, unclog itself, and then restart itself again. So we're right now, like I said, we're in a holding pattern on this because we want to make sure that this works. Before, we put the other two in, before the city accepts these, that they're going to work from the contractor, we want to make sure that they work for sure first. So I apologize that, not a lot's really happening right now down there right now because we are in this holding pattern. And the reason that we're in this holding pattern is if these pumps don't work, we could be potentially looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars to switch some of this stuff out to hopefully make it work. Now, they've been running for about 10 days. From the last I heard, they have clogged up 4 times. The pumps have reversed themselves and they've cleared themselves, and then they work fine again. So fingers crossed, things are looking up, that it is going to work, but we just need, I'll feel way more confident if I get another 2 or 3 weeks on these pumps just to make sure that this is going to work. And then that also steps into, we did get the fencing costs. I just got that the other day. It's right around 100. I believe it was like $104,000 with our credit. Part of the project, I believe, called for about $40,000 or $45,000. I think it was right around $40,000 for chain link. So we do get credit for that back. But I'm reluctant to have them start on the fence at $104,000 until I know these pumps are going to work. Right now, if the pumps work and we don't have to change anything with those pumps, we have enough money in contingency, so we will not go over budget on this project. If the pumps don't work and we have to do something different with them, we are probably going to have to get very creative. That could be, we just put the chain link fence up because we have to spend this money elsewhere. So that's kind of why not a whole lot is really rolling down there. We're just in a holding pattern, waiting on these pumps to see if they're going to work. Like I said, hopefully they work. We can use them, and then at that point, then we can start moving on to the pretty stuff, like a fence and different things like that. But these pumps are they're probably the 3 most important pieces of equipment down there. So we want to make sure that they're working first. So that's just kind of an update on where we're at with that and why you guys haven't really seen, a whole lot in terms of progress down there, except for the asphalt and different things. They are going through and doing punch list items, inside that they have to correct. So they are down there doing stuff, but when you drive by, you're really not seeing a whole lot happening. There's a lot of stuff is happening inside. So we'll get down. I'll get you guys down there one of these days.
But we had a lot of trouble at lift stations with those flushable
Lift
wipes.
stations
But
are
we put
another
special
one.
pumps in, didn't we?
We've got 15 lift stations in town, and the guys are out constantly pulling them things apart because of these flushable wipes. And we put it on the website. Everybody I talk to, and please. So if you guys do have things, if you're talking to the public or whatever, it's always just something nice to mention and just say, please do not flush them flushable wipes. I wish
I'll put it up on my Facebook page again.
Yeah, I wish somebody would, I wish the federal government would sue these people, and because when you put flushable on there, we all know it's okay. Well, then it's on the package. It's got to be okay, but they're just not. Them things are terrible. Worst thing ever invented, in my opinion. So,
Have you put a little statement on each of the utility bills?
we have not. That's something we can do. A lot of times when our utility bills go out, we have so much other information that goes on there. We just kind of forget about it. We put it on the website, things like that. That might be a good newsletter item to go out.
Oh yeah, talk to Aaron about the city newsletter.
Yeah, I know that they're looking for stuff for the newsletter right now. So I have given that thought, but as long as we're here in a public forum, I'd like to just mention it again. Please do not flush those wipes.
As serious as much trouble as it's causing, it seems like it could be the top topic on that newsletter, like the headliner.
Yeah, it would be nice, the word, everybody knows it. I mean, I haven't talked to one person and they went, "Oh, I didn't know that you can't flush those." Everybody says, "Oh yeah, you can't flush them." But I'll tell you what, either they're lying to me or there's one person in town that I haven't talked to and he's flushing them like by the truckload. I don't know. I don't know, but, and that goes for baby wipes. That goes for anything, sanitary products. It's just, throw it in the garbage, please just throw it in the garbage. Do not flush it down. So that's pretty much a summary for there.
So number 6, sewer utility and water utility cash reports.
Yep. So you've got your cash reports in there. We're looking fine on all them. So unless there's any questions on that, they really don't change a whole lot unless we're spending a lot of money, which we're not. So
We don't vote on that, but
no, that's information only.
But on number 7, discussion and possible action on claims and the payables, we have to vote on that, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
So
I have a question about those.
Sure.
There were some payments to some hail company. Did that get reimbursed by insurance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So with that hail, I can't remember if I had updated you or not. I'll just give you a quick rundown. So, we had the big hailstorm come through. We had our insurance company or the city's insurance company come. They looked at all of our buildings. Two of our shingled roof buildings were damaged. The metal ones and that kind of stuff were fine. So we did have 2 buildings that were damaged. We had them, we got proposals, or estimates to have them repaired, things like that. I don't even think they're even repaired yet, but then we also had vehicles, my car and one of the white pickup trucks. We were still out when that hail came. So those got damaged. They have since been fixed. The insurance company, we'll pay the vendor, and then our insurance company just reimburses us minus our $500, I think it is, deductible or whatever it is. So yeah, we will be getting that back.
Okay. Yep. We had our roof replaced at our house. Gosh.
Yeah. Them guys are busy right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I'll move to
Okay.
approve.
Yep.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to the last item, number 8, adjournment. Anybody want to make a motion to move to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second it myself. Aye. All in favor, signify by aye. Yep.
Aye.
No opposed. Motion passes.
Great.
Meeting is adjourned.